All right, all right, all right. Hopefully, I'm showing up all right, and you guys can hear me well. Um, I'll apologize in advance that I just got over a little bit of feeling ill, so my voice is a little raspy, but I've got a little bit of Coca-Cola here. Oh, I shouldn't say that. Cola beverage, to satisfy me and help me get through this. I hope everyone's doing well. Uh, thought maybe this time I would do something slightly differently. Uh, However, as always, if something's up with the audio or with uh, the display of me or whatever I'm doing, just let me know. But first things first, what we're gonna do is, well, I just got logged out, so I might have to fix that. But I thought maybe we could see if we can find something interesting in the launcher to play with first. Maybe to get an indication of what we can do today. Bum. And then I obviously need to get my. Oh. See, this is something I should have done before, but I didn't expect myself to be logged out. Let's see here.
My wife and
someone puts on a YouTube video for some reason. Just give me a second while I try to figure this out. Meanwhile, how has everyone been doing with playing around in Yahaha? We can start there, see if anyone has anything specific they want to talk about since last time. Any questions or any thoughts on how the process has been while I try to figure this out. Let's see here. Bum. Go. There we go. No thoughts. Well, that's fine. That means everything's probably gone really well, I hope. And everyone's just been having fun. That's a great thing in my book. So let's get into it. Hopefully this works. I'm still not trusting this overlay app exactly perfectly, but yeah, seems absolutely fine. Hello, Shark. Very nice that you're here. So, to get started, I thought we would check out maybe one or two games. Oh, look how beautiful. JumpStart. How fitting. I thought we might look at some levels that represent what we're doing today in a really good way. So, just for us to remember what happened last time, we talked about. Actually, I'll switch to the face view for this. What we did last time was we played around with the editor, just try to get comfortable with all the functions that are there. And then we also built a little level that we're going to keep building on today. So last time I even teased it a little bit. I added some gameplay, which is what we're going to do today. So if you remember, I added a little helicopter that could walk around. And we're going to do a similar thing today, but we're going to go through all of the components. Kind of briefly, but not on a surface level, but we're going to go through them, and then we're going to move on. Because in the next episode, we're going to take those components and build really complex stuff with them. So my idea for today is that we look at one game that I know I had a good time with. So we're going to look at the launcher. Here in this view, we're going to look at the testing facility. So this level I was actually part of playtesting in, and I sucked at it. That's the only word for it, but it's a really, really fun level. So we're going to go in and play that, and hopefully we'll see if it automatically finds this window, or if I'm going to have to do some tinkering with it. It seems like I'm going to have to tinker with it. See here. Yep. Seems like this is gonna work. Fantastic. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Unfortunately, I spawned in the wrong place, but that's okay. So I'll actually ask as well, has anyone played this map? Or seen it before? Because if you haven't, and you don't want spoilers, come play it right now. Because I'm gonna go through it. Briefly, I'm not gonna go through all of it, but I'm gonna look at it and see how this relates to what we're gonna do today. So I think everything's showing up just fine. I'm gonna see if I can play around with the audio to get... Oh, it's completely quiet. See here if I can modify my mixer settings. Maybe there's something up with that. Nope, it's just dead quiet. Well, that's fine. We're gonna have to live with it. But yeah, so what we're looking at right here is using what's called a move component. And we're gonna go through how that works. We might not exactly do this, but we'll look at it. And as you can see, it moves, and it even moves me. I should not have picked this level because like I said, I'm really bad at it. But using just one component here, you can see that we're getting some really frustrating but fun gameplay out of it. Now you're obviously supposed to play this in multiplayer, so that you can laugh at your friends while you're playing. But there we go. And now I have to do it again. Glitch through it a little bit. That's fine. We'll go through here. We'll jump over here. Now these are fun as well. We'll take a look at those arrows when we get into the editor, and I'll talk a little bit about how you can use those to make some cool, interesting, and self-explanatory levels. Same here with these arrows. Very, very cool. So this is basically where I'm gonna fail and lose, but that's okay. Oh, that was a bad idea. Actually, we can just run over here and take a look at it. Yeah, push me down, and then we'll go over here and take a look at this thing. So this is using a different component called the rotate component. Oh, that's bad framing. This is called the rotate component. And so what it does is it rotates things. And on top of that, these swords, if I'm not wrong, has something that's called a... Oh, I don't know if we changed the name of it. React component? I will get to it, but that's what's making me bounce like this. So there's a lot you can look at, but we'll stop here. And if you want to play this level, I recommend playing with friends, because there is a whole mechanic of your friends going up there and doing stuff. Again, no spoilers, but if you're curious about that, go play it. Yeah, so we'll stop there. We'll go back to the launcher, and we'll open up the level that I was using last time. Oh, hello. That's not what you're supposed to be seeing. OBS, are you okay? Well, that's a bug that I haven't seen before, but that's all right. So we're gonna go back to the create screen. I have a bunch of levels, obviously, but I'm gonna pick the one that we were working on. And so what I did was I clicked back up to draft, so I could edit it. So we're gonna go in immediately and continue working on our game, which is very fun. I love being back in the engine. So first of all, I'm gonna go in here and where is this? Here you go. I'm gonna remove this whole helicopter object, just because that's not something that we necessarily did together last time. Same with those empty objects. I don't know why I used those, or I know what my intention was, but it is not relevant at all because it did not work. But yeah, so just going in here real quick, we're gonna see that we don't have much to do here. It's a very, very dull game. It's kind of pretty, but it's a dull game. So to fix that, we have what are called components. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create an empty object just to demonstrate what the components are. We're going to go through a little bit more in detail in a second. But if you head over here to the gameplay tab, when you have an object selected, doesn't really matter which one, you can actually click here on component and add one. Now we have 3 types here, and some of them are a little different than others. So we're going to start at the bottom here with the node components. Now, in general, you're not going to be using these unless you're scripting. And we're also not going to go through how scripting works just yet because it is complex. It's sort of dull if you're not a programmer, and we shouldn't have to use them anyway. But it's good to know that if you want to get into the scripting part, you should definitely take a look at these because they are very, very useful for providing some functionality. So the next kind of category is the gameplay components. And these are the ones that you use pretty much the most. Whatever you're doing, you're going to use one or several of these. So that's the one. Those are the ones that we're going to focus on today. And then we have these complex ones. Now, the complex ones are basically a combination of components, or in this case, the NPC itself. Now, the NPC we're also going to take a look at, but I think we're going to play with it more in the next episode. We're going to definitely use it once, but next episode, I think we're going to use it more. So we're going to hide that for now, and we're going to go back to that later. So just looking at this, we've already talked a little bit about the move component. We've seen it in action. Same with the rotate and here, the react component. So we'll start probably with the move component. So I think what we have here is pretty cool, but I would probably like, maybe some sort of elevator. Yeah, I think we want an elevator. Now, question is, if I move this elevator, will it... doesn't seem like it. Let's just add a little platform down here. So what we're gonna do is first of all hide all of these root things, and we're gonna delete this empty thing, and we're gonna maybe check out the asset library actually, unless I have some cool. Well, we do have this, and I think that it's one of these. But if we scale it up, I think we can use it in a cool way. Actually, doesn't seem like I can select it. Well, this is interesting. I'm gonna have to write to my colleagues. This is peculiar. I'm wondering if it's a problem with either my version of this level or something else. So apologies for the little interruption, but let's find some other, like a panel or something. Let's see here. Actually, this one's kind of cool. Just use a server node. Add that to my assets, and then try to find it here. There we go. There must be some issue with some of my older assets, but we'll get through it. I do, however, really like this little computer thing, so it's not going to be a huge problem. It's very small though, so I'm going to want to scale it up a little bit, but that's not a problem, because if you remember the keyboard shortcuts, number 4 to scale, we're going to scale it up a whole bunch. There we go. I think also we're gonna rotate it the other way so it looks a little bit more smart. Like we have a little barrier there on the end. And we might as well use I have to look at the keyboard shortcuts, but we might want to use, let's see here. Where can it be? Array duplicate. So what I want to do here is I want to duplicate this to the right, just to create a little bigger platform. So the way that you do that is you select your object that you want to duplicate, and you do Shift Control D, and you get these little bigger arrows. And you can actually just drag to create more of that object. Now I feel like I'm done there. I don't need a ton of those. I just needed 2. And just to make it easy for us, I'm gonna create a little empty object, pull it outside, put it in the middle of those 2, and then grab the models and put them under this empty object. We're gonna have a little easier time just to see where the objects move to. They're gonna move together. It's gonna be fantastic. Now, I'm not sure if these have any collision. It seems like they do have mesh colliders, but I'm gonna turn those off because I'm gonna use a box collider on our parent object. Now, I'm not super sure if this is necessary, but I like to do this just to make sure that when we eventually use the move component, it's relying on the collision between itself and the player, not some other objects. I don't know if it's necessary again, but I feel like it feels better if you do that. Unfortunately, I have made a mistake. I need to remove these again and then just scale this to 1 so we get everything in the correct scale. There we go. Now I'm going to take this box collider and just scale it up a little bit. I think on the x-axis we're going to do that much. So I'm just dragging the from the letter here and kind of eyeballing it on the object. Yeah, that looks absolutely fine. And then on the z-axis, which is the blue one, I'm going to do the same. I'm going to have to look at the other side. Yep, looks fine. And then for the y-axis, I'm going to just shrink it down a little bit. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Yep, that looks great. So here comes the cool part. What I'm gonna do now is that I'm gonna go to gameplay, click add component, and then add a move component. You're gonna see here that we get this yellow arrow, and that represents where the object goes when it moves. So the first thing that I'm gonna do is I'm going to move this up a little bit so that we get to this other platform. Now, I'm not super sure if it has a collider, but we can test that and see whether it does. And if it doesn't, we'll add one. So I think that looks good, but I'm gonna go into isometric view from, let's see here, that was the wrong thing. There we go. Just make sure that it's sort of aligned to where we want to go. Select this again. I'm gonna move it down slightly. And there we go. Jump out of isometric view. And let's just put stay time here at, oh, we'll leave it at 5. That's perfectly fine. And then we'll play from here and see what happens. So we have our little platform here. We can walk on it. And as you can see, it moves up and then stops over here. Nope, no collision. That's fine. It's not super relevant. Well, here we go. We're going to have to wait a little bit. And I'll explain why we have to wait. Oh, I didn't even do that. Never mind. Let's go through how you modify how it works. Before I start saying a bunch of stuff that doesn't really make sense. So as you can see here, we have a start position and we have a relative position. Now you can add multiple relative positions. So in this case, we only have the 1, right? But I could add another position that takes us up all the way up here, which might as well do that. Take it up a little bit. Perfect. And you also see that we have different settings for the different relative positions. So first at the start position, that's right here. The stay time is how long it's going to take for the platform to move from that position. So it's going to wait for 5 seconds and then it's going to move. We have the same thing over here on the second position, which is up at this height. And then we have 5 seconds over here as well. Now 5 seconds is a little bit long, so I'm just going to lower that to 3 seconds on all of them. Perfect, perfect, perfect. And as an elevator, you probably want it to go up and down, not just up the one way. And we can do that. We can select here first to do it infinite times. That means the elevator is never going to stop. And we can also set it to 2-way. Now, 2-way just means that it's going to go from the start to the next relative, to the next relative, and then back in the queue. So if you remember how it worked just a second ago, it didn't really come back to the bottom and pick us up, even though I expected it to. And that's because I hadn't changed that setting. So there we go. That was a little bit faster for it to start there. It's perfect. And then 3 seconds, it goes up again. It's going to wait for 3 seconds, and then it's going to return to the bottom. Stopping in the middle. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Yep. And then it's going to go back to the bottom again. Fantastic. Lovely, lovely stuff. Let's see if it keeps going. Yeah, it does. Fantastic. All right, all right. So that's the move component. And it can get really complex, as we'll see in the next episode. But this is really all you need to do for any like moving platforms or platforming in general. This is all you need to know, basically. And of course, we have the move speed. I keep it pretty low most of the time, but I can demonstrate what happens if you don't. So let's do a move speed of, I don't know, 30 to get from the second position to the third. And we'll play from over here again. And you'll see how that changes it. So I guess maybe from the second floor to the third floor, they're really stressed out. They need to get there fast. So we're gonna wait. Oh, and there we go. It's fast to get up there. We still have the slow speed, so when it comes back down to the second point, it moves slowly, which I think is pretty neat. But yeah, I think that's enough about the move component, unless anyone has any questions. The one thing that we can discuss just really quickly is this, what a trigger is. Now, we are going to get into this more later, but just know that for this move component, we used on start as the trigger. And that means that on the first frame of the game, when the game first loads in, it's going to start doing its logic. And that's why it's called start. And we'll use the other ones later. So let's see here. What should we do next? We should create something maybe that spins, I think is a good idea. And as we do so, we could also demonstrate the trigger. So right here, I feel like I want to have a water wheel. If we have one. Water wheel. Not really, not really. Do we have a... Oh. What are they called? A fan? Sure. This one's perfect. Fantastic. I'll add that to my assets. Perfect, perfect, perfect. And we'll go into my... I'm getting lost here. There we go. We'll go in here and then we'll select this little fan thing and try to use it, and it doesn't work. Perfect. That's exactly what I was hoping wouldn't be the case. What else can we use? Something seems a little bit off, but we'll get through it. We'll get through it. Let's see if we can use this fence here. Nope. Okay, what I'm gonna do instead is I'm going to what am I gonna do? I'm gonna use this. I should just use this because that one's kind of neat. So I don't know if you remember, but I do. I added this as a like sample of stuff that you can add. We're gonna add a rotate component to this, and we're gonna operate it through a trigger. So, and when I clicked on that, I got this empty tab here, and we're gonna add a rotate on it. And instead here of using on start, we're gonna use on enter. Perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. And what we're gonna do, actually that's wrong. Let's leave it on start just for now, while I demonstrate the other settings, and we'll come back to that because I just realized something. But so we're gonna keep it on circle here because we have some rotation settings. I'm gonna keep it on circle because I want it to rotate around slowly, slowly, slowly. But you can also set it to arc, which enables you to set an angle. And we can look at that immediately just to see how it looks different. And for the angle, I'm going to set it to infinite times and two-way, just so we can see it going back and forth. That might be an effect that you're after. So we'll start there, and then we'll come back to making it go all the way around. So let's see here. See that it slowly moves over. Whoop! I just fell in the water. Let's make it a little faster. Let's put it at 5 seconds to go that 60 degrees. There we go. Now you can see here that it is rotating 60 degrees and then it's going back. That's actually a really neat effect. I don't mind that. That is pretty cool. But we're gonna try the full circle anyway. So we're gonna do that, and instead of doing 5 for the full circle, let's do 10 for the full circle. So it's gonna be a little bit faster than the arc thing that we just looked at, but it's gonna be just fine, just fine. And instead of doing two-way, let's put it to one-way, and then it's just gonna go all the way around all the time. Perfect, perfect. Neat. Now that looks really professional. Really looks like they're doing some good scientific work here. Very, very cool. So maybe we don't want this to start immediately. So what we can use then is either touched by player, which means that you collide with something, or on enter, which means that you enter a trigger, or on exit, which means that you exit a trigger. Now, I don't like using touch by player because you actually have to get in contact with an object, and sometimes collisions can be a little bit finicky. So instead, I like to use on enter, which uses triggers, which are basically just volumes of air where things can happen. Now, we could put it anywhere, but I think this looks like this looks like it controls that thing. Absolutely. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to select this object, go to scene, and add a trigger box to it. Now, the trigger box is going to take the same shape as the object, but I want it to be a little bit nicer to the player. So I'm going to actually pull it out a little bit here and pull it down to the floor. And now the player can enter this whole box to trigger our functionality. We'll just hide collision on this, just so we don't have to worry about that. So if we go ahead to the gameplay tab, we can actually add what's called a trigger. You can either do this from the object that is the trigger, or you can do it from the object that you want to trigger, like our rotating satellite, for example. I'm using the same word. That's my own fault. But So we could do this either from the satellite or from this panel. That's basically what I'm saying. And what we're going to do is say that on enter, we're going to do something. So we are going to pick. Now, what was it called? It was called satellite something. So let's search for satellites. Perfect, perfect. And we're going to trigger the rotation. So we can actually click here to go there and see what's going to happen. Well, so what's going to happen here is that we're going to get the on enter. Now, unfortunately, it's still doing the on start. So I'm actually going to remove this real quick and do it from here as well, just to demonstrate it. So instead of using self, we're going to click on others and select our object. Now, I didn't name it, which was my mistake. And we'll call it something interesting. We'll call it sat controller. Just so we can select an object called sat. But we have to click on this first. There we go. We choose sat controller. And then we select on enter. Perfect. We can actually look at this sat controller now as well. Remove this invalid target, and we can see that it's doing the exact same thing that we did manually. Perfect, perfect. So let's try this out. It's always exciting to see how things work when you're doing it live. But hopefully this is gonna work. So I'm gonna walk into this trigger. Yeah, there we go. Absolutely perfect. Fantastic. Now, if we wanted to, we could actually add a little sound bite to when we enter this little trigger. So what I'm going to do here is look at another component called audio. And then we're going to add audio. We're going to select an audio file. I'm not super sure which one we're going to use, but we can actually preview by playing on this little button right here. I think the most of them. Oh, that one's good. Yeah, there we go. So I'm gonna select this one, special click. I'm just gonna click that one and it's gonna show up here. We can actually play it from here as well, just to see what it sounds like. And the audible area is, I'm not actually sure how big that is in scale to the engine or to the editor, but I'm assuming that it's 50 meters in diameter, which is pretty big. So I'm gonna lower it to 20, and that's probably fine. I think we're also gonna change how it's triggered by selecting self on enter, and that's gonna be exactly the same as this. So they're gonna trigger at the same time. Now let's go in and listen to how it sounds. We'll go here. There we go. And now our satellite starts turning. And as you can see, like immediately we're doing something kind of semi-complex. If you start adding components that trigger all at the same time or in queue, you can make some really crazy stuff. And I recommend looking at, any of the levels that came out of the moment or the other events that we've done. There's so much cool stuff out there, and you can reach all of it through the launcher, through the play section there. If you want to get some inspiration, that is. So perfect. We've gone over the triggers a little bit, and we've talked about the audio. We've talked about rotators and how you move stuff. Where are we looking at time? 40. I think we're just gonna keep going unless anyone wants to take like a little break. I feel fine actually. I'm gonna drink a little bit, but apart from that, I think I'm absolutely fine. And we'll just move on to the next components. So let's see here. I actually have to select something and look at what more components we have. So we've done move and rotate and audio. We've also looked at trigger. Perfect. Right. So React is an interesting component. Like I said before, React basically does something to whatever interacts with it. So in this case, we could do what do we want to do? Let's say that these are extremely toxic, poisonous barrels, right? I think that makes sense. So we'll add the react component to it, and we'll say that it's gonna kill the player in this case. Now there's also hit, which does what we saw while we were playing. It can either bump, which is a small hit, a repel, which is medium, and then repulse, which is a lot. And we'll put a couple of boxes so you can see the difference there. But first of all, we're gonna do dead, and we'll see what happens when I walk into it. Now, we're also gonna see a reason for some settings that we haven't set yet. Oh, I'm not able to collide with it. Well, that's fine. Let's actually add a collider to it. Maybe it doesn't have a collider. It does not. So we're gonna add a let's add a capsule, because that makes sense. It kind of looks like a capsule. And we'll try to shape it out so that it's basically around the whole barrel, almost sticking out a little bit. I think it makes sense. Just so you don't have to get inside it for it to make you dead. We'll try this and see what happens. Just walk into it. Yeah, there we go. It killed me immediately. Now, unfortunately, we have a really long respawn time, but we can fix that. We'll do that in a second though, because I do want to look at the final things from here before we do that. So the next component here that I'm going to talk about. Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to show you how the React works differently if you select hit the player and pick all the different things. So what we'll do is we'll actually add React to these. We'll do bump on this one, and then we'll do repel on this one, and we'll do repulse on this one. Now, how are we gonna be able to see the difference of these? Well, I think the easiest way to do it is just pull this a little bit off the ground. We'll put this a little bit more off the ground. We'll pull this the most off the ground. Right? You can see the difference there. And we'll see how they react differently. So let's just start here. Perfect. So this one doesn't have anything on it, does nothing. Well, if we jump onto this one, which doesn't seem to have a collider either. Did I mess that up again? Yep, none of them actually have outside colliders. That's fine. We'll do a box here. We'll do a box here. We'll do a box here. Sometimes you have to be careful with that, where the collider is actually inside as a child of the object. So if you want a component to react to collision or react to a trigger, make sure that they're actually on the same object. Otherwise you get mildly confused. Now this really doesn't want to do anything. Well, then we're gonna have to do a second step. We're gonna have to go into all of these and make sure that these don't have colliders. Delete that collider, and then we'll delete this collider. There we go, and then we'll go in here. You can actually see here in the Explorer that it's called floor tile C col, which means collider. But we're gonna remove that because we put the collider on the other object. That's just how it goes sometimes. You gotta be careful about what you're doing. Here we go. Oh, there you go, a little bump. And then this one, we get a big bump. And this one, oh, huge hit. Whoa, almost sent me into the water. So that's the difference between those. And then we have dead over here. Oh, this one returned to being repel. I forgot to keep it like it was. Here we go. Put that back to that. Oh, that's perfect. The final is hit and dead. It does basically a combination of the two. So I'm not going to go over that in detail. However, we're going to move on to the next component, which is the respawn point. That's what I almost went to too quickly. So a respawn point is the same component as the default respawn point. So you will always have this in your scene. Now it comes with an audio file, which you can change. This is the default, the one you probably heard before. And you also get to choose a character rotate. Now, I'm not fully sure how that works. I've never gotten that to work perfectly, but that might just be my own incompetence. So we'll see. We'll start by playing here, but I never seem to be able to demonstrate how it works while I'm showing it. It always works differently while I'm talking about it. But we'll try to change the Y to 90 to see if I start looking that way instead of, just to the side instead of looking straight forward. There we go. Yes, it worked this time. So you can actually select where the character will be looking as you spawn. And if you want to maybe make the player look towards our satellite to show that, oh, you're supposed to go there, we can do -90 and it will look the opposite way. I don't know what I'm showing with my hands, but instead of then showing this view, or the player looking this view, it's going to show the player looking this way. There we go. So let's play again and we'll see how that looks in practice. Yeah, there we go. So that'll prompt the player to go over here and trigger that, which I think is pretty neat. I don't want to toot my own horn too much, but it's pretty easy to play with this stuff. So there we go. That's the respawn point. And another thing that we can do is we can actually create teleporters, which is, I think, that one of the final components here that I'm going to show. Yeah, before we get into the NPC. Now we might go over a little bit because there is a lot to go through, but I think some of it we'll also go through more in detail in the next episode, so I'm not too worried about that. But yeah, so a teleport point, you actually have an asset for that. So it should be, I think it's this one, which doesn't seem to want to enter my scene. That's fine. Let's see if this one wants to. Nope, it does not. Well, then we'll just figure this out our own way. We'll select this thing and we'll add a component to it called teleport point, right? And you can make it teleport to either an object or a custom coordinate. So just to demonstrate, we'll see here. Where can we make it teleport? This is at that coordinate, but we will make it teleport to, actually I don't know if it's relative, so let's see if that's first relative. We'll go in here and check it out. Oh, did I just crash the engine? Yep, I just crashed the engine. Hold up. Nothing happened. We'll set it to be right back, and I'll try to fix this. I'll put on some music just while I'm fixing this. Hang on. There we go. Sorry, I pressed the mute button twice. That's my bad. thanks for calling it out. I was just rambling about remember to save because I lost everything. That's okay. But getting back to what we were working on, if you can hear me now, seems like it. We're gonna try to create a teleport point. Now, I'm still not sure why things weren't working here. It still seems that something is up. So we're gonna have to do this the old-fashioned way by just adding the component to the object. So here we go. Create the teleport point. We're gonna create one with the custom coordinate. We're gonna do 10 on the z direction. Now, I'm not super sure where it's gonna put us. I don't remember if it's relative or if it's absolute, which means like world coordinates or relative to this. But we're gonna try it out and see for ourselves. And then I can tell you how the other way works. But we're gonna go over here and hopefully it's gonna trigger. And if it's not, it's probably because I didn't add a trigger box. See, all of that comes included if you use the built-in asset, which is why I like to use it. But unfortunately, this time we can't do that because of some reason. We'll see why in the future. But we'll make it work. So here we go. Teleport point. We're in the trigger. There we go. Yeah, so it's world coordinates. So if I wanted to maybe land over at the spawn point, I could either copy these coordinates, which is this 0 minus 0.39, aka just 0, 0, 0. Or I could be a little bit more clever about it and select an object. So we're going to tell it to go back to the respawn point. So when we go stand over here, we're going to go back here. Let's see. We're going to get teleported. There we go. Perfect. And you can do this with literally any object. It could also be another teleporter. So if we want to make this teleport me to the other side, for example, we could duplicate that and move it over to the other side. We'll move it up a little bit just so it sits nice and true on the floor. And it's going to teleport us over there. I'll actually move this over here as well. So it just teleports us over this gap. But then we have to select. First of all, we're going to rename this one to tele A. And this one we're going to call tele B. So teleporter A and teleporter B. And this one is going to go to tele B. This one is going to go to tele A. Perfect. We're going to play from here. Nice. And we're going to go over to this one. And then we're going to get teleported to this one. And as we go back onto this one, we're going to get teleported back to the other side. Nice, nice, nice. And as you can see there, it teleports to wherever the pivot is. So if you want to be really smart about it, use the built-in one. Unfortunately, I couldn't get it to work today. It should work. It worked yesterday. But if you're using some other object, make sure that you check where the pivot is, because otherwise you might land on the side of it rather than in the middle. So in this case, since we have the pivot there, I would instead put that one's in the same place, but I would put something as a parent to it. So let's create an empty object here beneath it, and we can select where this is going to be relative to the parent. In that case, you would put the teleporter on the parent, and the model, whatever you're using, is beneath that and doesn't have a teleporter on it. So let's see, we could do this with this one specifically. So we'll rename this to just be pad, just so it's different. And we'll rename this one to tele A. So when the teleporter is on this object, it's going to go to tele B. And this thing is not going to have a teleport point. We're going to delete that component. And the pad itself, we're going to move over like that. So the center of the tele A is in the middle of the pad, approximately. I didn't do it perfectly, but you sort of get the point. So now that if we move this so it's a little bit more in line, like that, maybe move it, no, it's fine there. Now we can actually teleport to the center of the object, and you're going to see how it's different when we go into the game. I just have to make sure that this one doesn't go to pad, it goes to tele A. There we go. So we're going to see immediately how this is different. I'm obviously going a little bit over time, but I planned this episode to be 90 minutes long, so I'm going to say that it's not overtime. I'm going to say that's fine. We forgot to add a trigger to this object, though. Here we go. Tele A needs a trigger box. Scale up the Y value. Do the same in the X direction, just to make sure that it is the whole object. That's good enough. For my purposes, that's good enough. But I'm sure that you guys would do a better job at making it perfect. I'm just doing things live on stream, so it's a little different. Okay, cool. And then we're gonna go back, and we're gonna see that this time we're gonna land in the middle. Perfect. So that's just something to keep an eye on. I'm sure that you'll figure it out, and I'm sure that you'll find it more useful to use the built-in one. That's the one that I usually do use. But we can take a look at it again as soon as that's fixed, which is likely soon. So that's the teleporter. And the final component, before we get into NPCs and how complex they can be, is actually the item dropper. And to demonstrate that, I'm going to just create an empty object here by the respawn points. So I selected it and just created an empty object while I had it selected, and I get it in the exact same position. However, I'm going to move it over just slightly so we can see that it's like, you have to walk to get there. And this kind of takes us into the gameplay options as well. But we're going to start off easy with the item drop and see how that works. So on this empty object, I'm going to create an item drop component. And for this, I'm just going to set it to drop an item on start. But if you want something to get triggered, like in, I don't know, Mario, when you jump into a block, then you can select the trigger to be like on collision or touched by player. In this case, I'm just going to do this. I'm going to set it to just do it first time in the room, never expire. So we're going to have an item that will always exist after it's dropped or someone picks it up. That's going to be when it gets removed from the world. So I'm going to select a new item, but unfortunately we don't have any. So I'm going to go create one. And we're going to, I don't know, pick a model. There's a lot of stuff here. Let's do a crab. Crab's always fun. So we'll we'll call it crab. And then say he's going to rave. Or it. I don't know. I don't know if it's a dude. So let's not make assumptions. Done. Perfect. So now that we have an item, we can actually select it here. We can select the crab, and we can also select how many. Now I'm just gonna drop one. That's fine. And we'll go in and take a look at what that looks like. So here's our item drop. It dropped. I can get it into my pocket, and I can see it in my inventory. Now, we're going to get into how this can be super cool and how you can do all awesome things with it in the next episode. But I still want to go through all the options that we have for items right now. But we'll see how we use them a little bit more in the next episode. So first of all, let's go into detail on all the settings that I changed here for this crab. Now, first, obviously, you're gonna have to select your model. You can pick anything that you've added to your assets. It doesn't matter at all. Just as long as it's a model, you can pick it. For example, I have all of this stuff. I can pick a coin, I can let it be paper, doesn't actually matter at all. Or a palm tree, if you want to do that. Then you have the ID. That's not something you can change. That's just an internal thing. So this is the first item, says ID 1. You also have a category. And that's just for organizations. You know, like, oh, this is a consumption item, so I should put consumption on it. Or you can customize, and you can select any label you want to do. So I'm going to call this animals, even though I only have one. But I might add more in the future. We'll see. You then have something called feature, which we're going to skip over for now, but we're going to get back to it. We also have something called max pickup and max stack. So max stack is in the inventory how many it stacks together. So if I can pick up 30, but I have the max stack at 5, it's going to make 6 different stacks, which 5 in each. Since this is the only crab, I put it to 1 and 1. So it's going to create a 1 stack, and I can only pick up 1. If I select 2 here, we're going to see that I can pick up 2, and they're going to land in different stacks. And then the description is just the description that you see in the inventory. So going back to this, the add feature function. This is a little bit complex. You're going to have to play with it yourself, but I'm going to create a feature called crab energy. And right now it says permanent item with add life of percentage 100. So this is going to add 100% extra of my health. So if I have 10 health, it's going to add 10 health. And you have a couple different attributes that you can change. You can change your current life, your maximum life, your attack strength, your defense power, or your speed. I'm going to do speed because I think speed is pretty fun. And I'm going to add 50% speed for each one that you eat. We'll make it permanent, but you can also set it to temporary. For example, if you want a temporary speed boost, a temporary attack boost, like double damage or something like that. But in this case, I'm going to do permanent. And I'm also going to keep it on speed. I'm going to add, you can also subtract if you want to. That can be really fun. To put like a toxic little mushroom that removes all your health. Really, really, really evil stuff, but a lot of fun. You can also select if it's going to be percentage or exact value. I don't really care what the exact value is right now, so I'm going to keep it at percentage. And that's about it for feature. So now we have crab energy on this. And yeah, let's try it out. Let's see what happens. And then we'll get into the rest of the settings. So here we go. We have our little crab. Oh, I forgot. I need to add more crabs. Let's do 3 instead so we can demonstrate that you can actually only pick up 2 of them. Okay, here we go. So we have 3, but yeah, the backpack's full and I cannot pick up the current item. So that's because we put max pickup to 2. And we can see here, because I put stack to 1, they land in different stacks. So that's how simple that is. So if we click this button here, which wasn't here before we added the feature, we click use, we're actually going to get a ton more speed. So as you can see, I'm just running way faster. And then I can pick up another crab, and we'll use that one as well, and we'll use the third one. And now we're going to be zooming by. Woo! So this is a permanent power-up, obviously, but you can play around with this. You can do a lot of fun stuff. And I'm sure there's more attributes that can be changed in the future, but for now, play with the ones that we have and see if you can make something really cool, because you'll impress me for sure. For sure. Now, you don't only need to use items to modify how the player works. We actually have a bunch of settings here for how much you do in attack, how much you do in defense, your jump height, your speed when you're running, and your speed when you're walking. So just to demonstrate this really quickly, I'm gonna put running speed to 10 or 8, I guess max, and our walking speed to 1. And also add another 80 centimeters to our jump height. I'll leave this as is, because we'll get into that when I show the NPCs. But that's basically a list of things that you can modify immediately. The items and the features we've already looked at. Synthesis is crafting, and it's really simple. You select a target item, and then you pick materials. So in this case, I'm gonna use 2 crabs to create. Actually, we'll create another item. We'll call this pure rave energy. If you don't understand the reference, I'm sorry. It's from the Crab Rave song, but I hope everyone knows. Otherwise, I've just aged myself immediately. We'll say, oh, that's actually the wrong model. I wanted to pick the magic orb. There we go. We'll put consumption on that. We'll add another feature. We'll call it pure rave energy, just so we can keep track of it. And instead of 50% speed, we'll do 100% speed. So it'll just be twice as good. And when we do crafting there, we can select the pure rave energy as target. So let's jump in and see how that works. And this gets really complex, but remember, this is just the basics. So we'll pick up 2 crabs. We'll press this this other button that wasn't here before, and we can actually craft the pure rave energy. And there we go. Fantastic. I think I actually created more than I was supposed to be able to, but that's okay. That's just a bug. That's something that we can deal with in the future. So yeah, way faster than just eating 1 crab. Fantastic. So that's how crafting works. And then ranking, this I'm not going to go over too much because it's pretty simple, but you can select things for leaderboards. You can actually have multiple things for leaderboards. So for example, if I just want to track playtime, I could just add a playtime rule with capacity of say 10. So we'll see the 10 most active players. Or 20, I guess, is minimum. That's fine. The 20 most, we'll do 25. That's a better number. 25 most active players, and we can see that. So if we go in and play, well, I'm not actually sure if it shows up here. Yes, it does. We don't actually have any playtime yet, but this basically is going to show you what players are the most active, which is pretty cool. So nice. So what you can select for that is you can do playtime, number of items, or obtain time of items. And you can select what item you want to have as the target if you pick number of items. And for obtain time of items, it's the exact same. And we'll go through like how you can use that as a tool to create cool levels in the future using crafting and all sorts of stuff. But I'm going to keep it at playtime for now, just because I don't have really a plan for how the story will go through. So now we're getting into some heavy stuff. I'm not going to go through in detail how all of these work, but we're going to take a quick look at all of them and just like talk about how it works, because it is way more to get through than we probably have time for right now. We are, however, probably going to get into those more in detail in the next episode, and I'm going to show the monster kill one in this episode, because we're going to use NPCs in a little bit. So the first game type you have is adventure, and that's basically sandbox mode. You can walk around. There's no time limit. You have time limited, that is almost the same as sandbox mode or adventure, but you have a time limit. So in this case, we have a 3-second pregame timer, and we have 600 seconds to play. So just to demonstrate that, we can play immediately and just see what it looks like. So you can see here the pregame timer, and then unfortunately it's hidden by the editor buttons, but we have 10 minutes to walk around and do whatever we want to do. So that's like one of the simpler ones. We also have the item collection one, which lets you select an item, for example, the crab, and it lets you win based on like how many items you've collected. So if we set the number here to 3, we're gonna have a problem because I only get to pick up 2. So I'll set it back to 1. And then number of winners is how many people will sort of win the game mode. In this case, I'm only playing by myself, so it doesn't really matter. But if we had 10 people and wanted 3 people to win, we would set this to 3. I'm also going to set the pre-game timer to... Can I set it to 0? Yeah, 0 seconds. Just to make this a little quicker. And then the in-game timer is exactly the same. So we're going to just try that out to demonstrate like how it works when you have an objective. So here I have my 3 crabs, and I picked up a crab and I won. That's how hard that is to set up. When this landed a couple of weeks ago, I was like, oh, now everything is different, because now we can make really cool games. And yeah, you should definitely play around with all of these game types and see like how you can make something cool with it. So we're gonna go over the survive one really quickly. It's sort of a battle royale game mode where you can defeat other players, and then the last surviving one wins. You have the enemy kill, which means that you have to kill other players or defeat other players for X amount of times. So if you want to have just like a one-on-one thing, you can do 1 enemy, and the game will be over. And whoever, so say we have 14 rooms, and in each of those 14 rooms, there's 2 people, and whoever defeats their opponent first wins. And yeah, you have respawns as well if you want them. Obviously, it doesn't matter if there's only 1, but if we put it up to like 40, then you need to get through a lot of people. And we can't have 40 people inside of the server at once at this point. So definitely you're going to have to use spawnable for that. And then on the racing game mode, you select a destination, which can be any object in the world as long as it has a collider and you can collide with it. So that's something to keep in mind, that if you select a destination for the racing game to a type, then it has to be collidable. It has to have a collider, and you have to be able to run into it. It at this point doesn't work with just triggers, which I'm not sure if that's going to change since we're still early in the development of the platform. But just keep that in mind. It requires something that the player can collide with, and that's the object that you should select. And then the final one is monster kill. Now, this one I'm going to spend a little bit more time on, because we haven't looked at how monsters and NPCs work yet. And that's the final thing we're going to do. We're going to create an NPC and a monster, which is technically the same thing but different. We'll get to it. And we're going to say that, let's create the final part of this will be creating the monster and then winning the game, pretty much. So it's very similar to the enemy kill one. The only difference is that we can select an NPC, which we don't have one yet, and we can select how many of that NPC you have to kill to win. And the rest of the options are the same as the previous game types. So we'll come back to this when we've created our NPC. I know I'm running out of time slightly, but that's okay. We'll get through this. So let's just take a little look at these final three options here because they're quick to get through before we start talking about the NPC and how complex that can be. So in this case, we have respawn mode, which is by default set to random. So if you have multiple spawn points, you will randomly spawn at any of those, any one of those spawn points. And that can be really fun for, say, a battle royale game where you don't want players to start exactly on top of each other. Then you can put a bunch of spawn points and then select random, and it's going to be super cool. For respawn, you have a range of 60 to 3 seconds that the player has to wait before respawning. Now I'm going to put it to 3 because I like a short respawn, but it defaults to 20. Which we demonstrated before when he got killed by the barrel, and it took way too long to respawn for us. But that's personal preference. We also have a setting to enable or disable the inventory. You can also select how many things you want in your inventory. In this case, it doesn't really matter because I don't have that many items, but it could matter to you, so keep that in mind. There's also an option to select an audio to select an audio for when you pick up an item. We can select, I don't know. Is this a good one? Yeah, sure. We'll use the punch one. So when we walk into the crabs this time, we'll hear the punch sound instead. You can also disable or enable background music. And in this case, I don't think I'm going to use any background music, but there's a bunch to pick from. And you should definitely go through and take a look at what works better for me. But since I'm streaming, I don't want to overpower my voice. But you should know that there's background music here. So there we go. That's about it. Let's create an NPC. Let's defeat that NPC, and let's round out the episode. So I'm gonna see if I can actually use any of these assets. I'm still a little concerned that it's not gonna work, but let's cross our fingers that it will. So I'm gonna pick this character just at random because it's cute and put it over here. So as you can see, it's standing in what's called an A pose, which usually means that it's rigged. If you ever see a character in an A pose, that means it's probably rigged. And that means that it has animations. But unfortunately, it's not gonna do anything before we add a specific component. Well, that's what the NPC component is for. So we're gonna add an NPC component, and it's just gonna show up like this. It's called NPC for now, and it's got ID 1. So let's jump in and see how that changes things. Here we go. Yeah, I got the punches. So this is our little NPC. And right now, not doing much, but you can see that there's some slight animation to it, which is pretty cool, right? It started in A pose, and now it's doing stuff. And unfortunately, it's got a pretty big head, so you can't see really the NPC text, but it does definitely say NPC there. Let's maybe rename him to something else. We'll call it Small Bob. I'm gonna add some extra spaces to hopefully fill out the name a little bit so we can see it fully. Let's check this out. Here we go. Yeah, it's a little better. Small Bob. There we go. This is our Small Bob over here. Perfect. But he's a little boring. Doesn't really do anything. Can't even attack it at all. So if we want to take a look, you can see here that the monster component over here actually contains some extra components. So it's a combination of both the NPC, the behavior, and the attack. That's why I skipped over those before. So let's click that, and we're gonna add the behavior and attack components at the same time. So first of all, I'm gonna add some more spaces so we can really see the NPC's name. And we're gonna take a look first at the behavior component. Now for now, we only have one mode, apart from none, which is patrol. But it's gonna demonstrate how it affects our little character here. So the range of 10 meters is actually 10 meters in diameter, I'm pretty sure. I feel like that's what it was last time I played with this, which was yesterday. But so 10 meters in range, and we're gonna actually change the interval to 5 seconds. And the interval is the time it takes for the NPC to make a decision about where to walk. So the NPC is gonna wait for 5 seconds and then go somewhere. I'm also gonna add some more speed to it, put it at 3 meters per second, and we're gonna see, I'm gonna disable the attack for now so we can play with this a little easier. We're gonna see how fast that actually is in comparison to me. So I'm walking at 1 meter per second. That's what I changed in the settings. And you're gonna see that, oh, it's way faster than me. There we go. I do have the quick run though, so that's cool. There you go. Small ... Well, my idea didn't work. But small Bob is walking around. Remove those spaces so it doesn't look weird. But yeah, there you go. Small Bob is walking around. So let's just remove all these spaces. It was a good idea, but it was not what was needed. But yeah, so that's the behavior. Lets you decide how they're going to walk around. We also have this attack component. And I feel like 100 life is a little bit much for this guy. So I'm going to put it to 10. I'll leave the attack at 1. Not going to assume that it's very strong. Also leave the defense at 0. Hazmat suit. Actually, let's put it at 1. Can't spit at him, but I can hit him. That makes a lot of sense when someone's wearing a hazmat suit. Be protected from all toxic substances. Maybe even the barrel over there. I'm not sure. But that makes sense to me. And let's set the attack to fight back. So the difference here between fight back and active attack is whether the player has to attack the NPC first, or the NPC just walks around looking for someone to attack. We're going to use fight back for now because I want to demonstrate how it looks. We'll set the alert range to, let's say 10 meters. That's probably fair. And the attack range can stay at 2 meters. So that's how far away, the alert range is how far away the player, or how close the player needs to be before an attack is, committed to. In fight back, it doesn't really matter because you have to be too close for it to even matter. But if you're using the active attack, then it definitely does matter. So attack range, on the other hand, is how far away the player can be and still get attacked by your NPC. And when it comes to interval, again, it's similar to the walk interval, but since it's for attack, it's like the time it takes before the NPC attacks again. And I think I'm gonna keep resurrection on, which is basically is the NPC gonna respawn? But I will change the interval to say 5 seconds. So as you can see here, this is why I left this until the last second, because it gets really complex. We're gonna play around more with that next episode. But let's go fight this guy and see how it reacts. I think it's gonna be cool. Oh no, did I have a crash? Oh no! Oh no! And I didn't save. Oh, someone clipped that. Oh my god. 2 crashes in one stream and I didn't save on either one. Oh, this is so embarrassing. Oh, whatever. Oh, whatever. Whatever. Okay. That's just what happens sometimes. That's just what happens sometimes. So, I've been going on for a long time, and I'm a little frustrated, to be honest. So I'm considering just saying, hey, you know what? Come back next time for the sweet release of like NPC stuff, but whatever. Let's just be right back, and I'll be back in like 2 seconds, and then we'll round out after we play around with this. Really apologize for this. So I think we're back again. Uh, this is a little ridiculous, but it's okay. We're just gonna have to, since I didn't save, I'm gonna have to do this again, but that's fine. Um, I already added it to my assets, so we're gonna put this little character back in its place. We're gonna go in and go into gameplay, add a monster this time. We'll call it Small Bob. I'm just gonna do exactly what I did before. Hopefully I'm gonna use the same settings. We'll see. I don't exactly remember. 5-second interval, 3 millisecond speed, 10 health, 1 defense, fight back, alert radius doesn't really matter, interval 3 seconds, absolutely fine, resurrection on, and we'll do 3 seconds instead of 5. There, save. I need to get better at saving. I'm not very good at saving. That's okay. We're also gonna go into gameplay and set this monster kill to Small Bob. There we go. Let's remove the pre-game timers just so we can get through this a little smoother. That should be fine. There we go. So before we play this, I'm just gonna mention that everything we did earlier, I'm gonna make sure to add it in the appropriate places in my level during the Friday tomorrow, and make sure that we can play this level as it is between the streams, and then build upon it in the next episode. But for now, since I have a lot to get through next before next stream, let's just play the small game that we created right here, where we have to defeat Small Bob. And hopefully we can get that sorted. Oh, you're getting dangerously close to falling off. Hey, I was just trying to help. I was just trying to help. Hey, Small Bob is not a very nice, whatever it is, hazmat wearer. But I'm gonna keep attacking until Bob learns their lesson. Oh, and they're back. And they went into the water. Fantastic. You're gonna stay there? Alright, well, I wanna go have a swim as well now, actually. But that's about it. We've gone through a lot of stuff today, so I definitely recommend that if you want to go back and check everything out, like that would be a good idea. Because when it comes to gameplay, there is so much you can do, and we've only skimmed the surface. Like, we've talked about ranking, crafting, or synthesis, as we call it. We've talked about items and their features, so power-ups and stuff like that. We've talked about how you can modify the avatar by default. We've also talked a little bit about game types, how you can change the respawn mode. We've talked about the inventory and how that works, music, and of course we've also talked about the NPC, all of these components. So the only thing that we left out was the nodes. And like I said in the beginning of the episode, these become more relevant as you start scripting. So if you're interested in scripting, definitely take a look at these. But for anything that you want to use in general right now, I would recommend sticking to the gameplay and complex components depending on your needs. And yeah, that's about it for today. And if you need anything, I'll be in Discord this whole week. I was away last week because of some minor illness issues, but that's better now. So if you have any questions, just talk to me in Discord. You're very much allowed to tag me. And yeah, I hope you have fun playing with all these gameplay options. And I look forward to see what you come up with. And so this is the second part of the 3-part series, and the next part is going to be the final one. After which we're actually going to turn in all our assignments and maybe play each other's games. I think that could be a good time. But for now, unless anyone has any questions, I feel like we're done with this episode. Which, unfortunate as it is, because I think it's really fun to do this stuff. It's getting late at night, and I bet a lot of people want to go to bed. So I'm gonna go to my face view and just check if does anyone have any questions or anything they want to say before we round out the episode. Because otherwise, I'm just going to say goodbye and see you next time. But I want to leave a little bit of time for people to say if they have anything to say. It doesn't seem like it. Well, then I'm going to go ahead and say thank you so much for watching. My name is Kim. Thank you so much for joining me and learning with me, apparently, that you need to save and all sorts of other stuff. Good luck until next time. And yeah, hope you have fun with it. And like I said, if anything comes up, I'm in Discord. There's a lot of cool people in Discord that definitely want to help you learn and want to learn themselves as well. So yeah, it's a good time. Take care and goodbye for now.